Hi there, everybody, and welcome to Fantasy Golf Picks. My name is Sophie Walker, and this is Kit Alexander. Hello, Kit. You've got a haircut. I've got my hair coloured. Things are looking up in the world.
I know, I feel like a new man, that not out the side here, no afro anymore. So hopefully with getting rid of that, the bad form of my fantasy team this last week can go with the hair. I'm going for like a reverse Hercules. The hair was bringing me bad mojo on the fantasy picks. I've got rid of it. I'm looking optimistic now.
Right, okay. Well, I'm just thankful that we had better weather than Austria because it looked freezing at the Austrian Open. John Catlin won. It's his third European Tour victory. It, as I say, looked very cold. I was texting Kit earlier in the week saying if Martin Keimer wins, and you totally dismissed him. I was going to be talking about it, but he just couldn't hold on. Overall, not a bad week there. What did you think to it?
Yeah, I mean, Keimer did well, to be fair. Third place, you might look at it and suggest going into the final round, the position he'd got himself into, and with his pedigree, that he should have gone on and finished the job. But it's amazing what those mental gremlins do, and it's a long time since he last tasted victory. And ultimately, if you did pick him, third place on his own is a really good return. It was an interesting tournament. Catlin just looks absolutely dynamite when he's in contention, and you got to feel a bit sorry for Kiefer. I think playing that that par 3 18th over and over again in the playoff, they were hitting it really aggressively, going at it, and it was just a case of who's going to break first. And once that first ball went in the water for Max Kiefer, the wind was out of his sails really, and obviously a couple more followed from the sort of drop zone, but the damage had been done at that point. Lots of tipsters were on Catlin last week from a betting perspective, so I think he will have appeared in a lot of teams. And like I say, 3 wins in just over 18 months, is it something like that for him? So an incredible run of form from the American, but one I didn't see coming, I have to admit. How about your team? I know we can call it a curse now. I think, let's be honest, let's call it a captain's curse. What was going through your mind as you saw Mr. Dietry's back 9 on Sunday?
Well, I went out for a cheeky 9 holes of golf on Sunday. So I was watching the golf. He's gone out in 33. I'm thinking, do you know what? That's not bad for a captain. You'd actually text me, hadn't you, on the Wednesday night saying, who are you captaining? And I said, is this so you don't pick him? Anyway, so I looked again. And you know, when you're like, I have my favourites at the top of the European Tour app. And he's like 71st. Like, what? I'm like, he shot 82. Anyway, I messaged you and you said, click on his scorecard. Well, wow. I mean, he had a 10 on a par 3. He had an 8 on a par 3. I was there, didn't really see any of it because I was out playing, but it just sounded like it. I mean, it just went off. And all I can say, Thomas, is I'm so sorry. Just put it down to me. It's not you, it's me. But yeah, the captain's curse did continue for me. I had a couple of good results. Schwab, top 10. Højgaard, the other Højgaard, Rasmus, he came, I think, -9, and had a couple of tied 15th with Horsfield and Kitayama. But the one guy that I went with, which I wouldn't have normally gone with, was your man, Lemke. And he had to withdraw.
Wow. Yeah, we were unlucky there. It was Joel Sjöholm tested positive for COVID, and Lemke, I think, was rooming with him and had been in close proximity. So even though he didn't test positive, he had to pull out. He'd had a steady opening round. I'm disappointed because he would have inevitably gone on to win. And as I picked him and would have won me money. But no, always frustrating. You feel a bit hard done by when that happens. He's had to pull out through no fault of his own, and he did have a decent opening round in the books. It's just one of those things, and you've got to roll with it. With everything that's going on in the world, there's worse things that could happen than your golfer pulling out in your fantasy team. So disappointing, because I do think he would have done all right had he played the full complement of 4 rounds, but not to worry. How about this week? There's
just quickly.
Yeah, we don't know much about it.
Captain quickly, just so.
I captained Sam Horsfield, so okay. He came strong on Sunday. I'd kind of I'd given up much hope, to be honest, going into Sunday, and he actually picked up a fair few positions to get up there. And like you, I also had Luton, Schwab, Kitayama. So it was sort of a nearly week. Just needed one of them to get themselves up into the battle on Sunday, and none of them quite did, really.
Just quickly before we move on, shout out to David Lawrence. He scored 957 points, which pretty much means he captained Catlin and had the rest of the top five, which was just incredible. Well done to David. But moving on to sunny climate, where are we this week, Kit?
Gran Canaria, for the Gran Canaria Lopesan Open. It's in to replace, I believe it was the Portuguese Masters or the French Open, one of those two that got called off relatively late, and the European Tour have done really well to actually just find any venue where we can go and play and have a tournament. So that, bearing that in mind, the course itself is quite resorty, and they've not had a big lead in time to do much with it, to toughen it up. I spoke to a couple of caddies earlier who are out there on the grounds already. They do say it's in lovely nick, but it is essentially a resort course. It's pretty short. It's very gettable. I think there's going to be some seriously low numbers potentially this week. You're right on the south of Gran Canaria, which is an island. And a pretty small island. So there is going to be a bit of breeze. There's not loads in the forecast. You're looking at 10 to 15 miles an hour with the forecast as it stands. So that is something to be aware of. But also from a viewing perspective, the back nine is just absolutely stunning cliff top golf. The front nine is slightly more inland, palm trees lining the fairways. So a bit of a game of two halves there, but we're going to get some really visually spectacular views of this golf course, I think, watching it over the weekend, and plenty of low numbers.
Yeah, I spoke to Emma Cabrera-Bello, which I played on the Ladies European Tour with, and her brother, Rafael Cabrera-Bello. He's the host this week. Knows the golf course reasonably well, but they have Rafa tees there, which is basically tees right at the back, as far back as you can, especially for Rafa. Because what a lot of you might not know is most golf courses aren't long enough for tour players. Just local golf courses. They can't go far enough back. So this golf club actually made tees for him. So I'm thinking he might know the course rather well. She was saying as well that the grass is like the Bermuda, the thick leaf grass. So people that are used to playing over in Florida, Asia, with that type of grass, that's going to help them. And yeah, the rough is not up. There is virtually no rough, which just is basically hit it as far as you can, find it and wedge it on the green. It will be a resort course. We had some resort courses during the English swing, didn't we? And I quite liked it. I remember seeing Andy Sullivan go really low, and to see the players that can mentally do that. As a player, when I was on tour, I struggled to progress really from that 2-3 under. And I do think there's a change of gear in some players that can really get their head around it and go low. So on our little bit of research, because there's not much course history, Emma did tell me that she won around there, and I think in the late 2000s, and so did Kyrgios, but that was only like a PGA local event. I haven't got much to go on other than that little bit of research that me and you've done, Kit. So who are you looking at this week?
I mean, I've got, as ever, some definites in there. Antoine Rosner, love the guy. 2 wins in 29 starts on the European Tour. He's backed up those big performances with really, really good consistency as well. You know, he seems to always be in the top 25 on the European Tour these days. So he's straight into my team. Another one, Kurt Kitayama. He's been reliable and regular in both of our teams pretty much all season so far, to be fair, especially in this level of tournament. So there's no reason not to include him, because all the things you've said there about being able to go low, someone that hits it a good distance, I think is going to play into his hands. I think he's got that. His 2 European Tour wins as well have come at places that I think kind of match up quite well to what we're going to see this week, which was in Mauritius and Oman.
I imagine the Mauritius course to be really quite similar to this. Small island, windy resort course. It's almost like an advertisement for the tourist board. It is, isn't it? You're going to look at that place and think, wow, that's amazing. But resort courses need to be playable, because 99.9% of the people playing them are just there for a holiday and a game of golf in that respect. So I'm with you at that. They've both got the same stroke average this year of 69.5. And Rosner took down your favourite Bryson, didn't he, in the match play? So he was always going to make your team.
Absolutely. And then the other definite I've got is Sam Horsfield. You mentioned players that have maybe played in Florida a bit, liking that type of grass or being familiar with it. Sam Horsfield, English passport, but grew up in Florida, isn't afraid to go low. He's got a 59 on his resume, albeit in a sort of friendly match, but he's got a few low rounds, and he showed he can do it last year as well on the European Tour. So they're my three definites so far. How do they marry up with who you're liking the look of?
Very much on board with those three. On these type of fields, I always like to look at somebody that I can see taking it to the next level. Those guys, arguably Rosner is doing already. The consistency of Kitayama to be like top 20 race to Dubai, having not had a victory, is really, really impressive. I've gone Guido, little Italian lad. I do like it was a bit of a last minute for me. We had this discussion before because we do our picks for the European Tour site, and whenever I see him, all right, you're gonna get all or nothing with him, I feel, don't you, Migliozzi? But in this type of field, he really does thrive. He can go seriously low. He had a 65 in Qatar to finish second, joint second. And spoke about the love of being in front of the camera. He's had a steady start to the European Tour. Amazing tee to green. And I think this type of course, the greens won't be tricked up because it's a resort course. With the rough down, I can see him really getting some confidence, opening up his shoulders and potentially sneaking another victory. He's a little bit like you said about the John Catlin. As soon as he gets a sniff, he doesn't back off, does he? He just keeps going and going. So that's a guy that I'm going to put in my team as well. Matteo Schwab has not let me down recently. He's really not let me down. So he's another one that I could think about. Obviously, he came 7th last week. If I'm looking at him to go in a team, I wouldn't say he's the longest. And I think if this is a course we have to take advantage of that, people might want to look into that. You've got to look at Rafael Cabrera Bello. I mean, he'll be gutted that the fans aren't there. But interestingly, like he's 18th on the race to Dubai. He's not done much other than a good result in Abu Dhabi, top 5. On a world stage at the moment, I think it's fair to say he's underperforming in America. He'd probably agree with that. He's been home quite a lot in Gran Canaria. So he's probably been playing the golf course. He's feeling comfortable with it. Interestingly, when you look at his stats, his long game is nowhere near what it should be, but his short game is. So I'm thinking going back to somewhere that he knows, players, some players thrive, don't they, on being centre of attention. And I think Rafa will enjoy that. As I say, it'd be a shame that the rest of the Gran Canaria can't go and watch. But I think he likes being like a big fish in the small pond. So I can't see him finishing outside the top 10. He's such a quality golfer.
He's tough for me. He's struggling. I mean, to say he's underperforming on the world stage and over on the PGA Tour, it's a bit of an understatement, to be honest. He's missing more than his fair share of cuts. He's not seen a top 10 or a top 20 in quite some time on that stage since going back to before the sort of shutdown of golf, really. But when you look at whenever he does come and play in these more normal European Tour events, he generally does perform pretty well. So I'm really juggling in my head at the moment the fact that you look at his form in general and it's pretty atrocious, but that's in world-class events on the PGA Tour and in majors and WGCs going back the last sort of 18 months or so. This is a very different beast. It's a different field. It's a course that he will know absolutely better than anyone else. There's a comfort factor, not only in being back on the European Tour, but of course in being on Gran Canaria, where he's from. And for me, it's which of those two factors, which is going to override the other? Is it going to be a case of, well, his form just isn't there. He can't be feeling confident. So can he find the confidence at home, or do you sort of disregard all of that because this is a totally different beast? It's a sort of more middle of the road European Tour event and he's hosting it in Gran Canaria. I'm really struggling with this one as to which way I'm going to go, to be
I get that, but we looked at Kayama last week. Like, I do think there's a huge difference between this year more than ever. The divide between the PGA Tour and the European Tour it's just never been bigger. So I've got to look at that type of thing with Rafa. And maybe doesn't like bubble life. There is a lot of players that don't like bubble life. Also, the courses that he's going to be playing are so much harder than what he's going to be playing this week in Gran Canaria. So if he does miss, they won't be punished as bad. The pins might not be as easily tucked away. That's why I'm thinking a little bit easier setup could really help him. But I do understand looking at it from both sides. I played junior golf for Rafa. I've known him since we're 15. Maybe I'm being a bit biased, but maybe I just want him to do well.
I think you're making a really good point.
In this type of field, if he doesn't finish top 10, he is struggling as much as you say. That's how that has to be it. But if he doesn't do that, then he is in a worse place than I thought he was. Have you got anybody else that you are highlighting?
Yeah. So we've mentioned Schwab a little bit. I do like the look of him. He's in decent form, 7th the last 2 starts. So he's certainly in consideration. Callum Hill, I think, is definitely going in my lineup. Top 8 in 3 of his last 4 starts. I think the one miscut he's had this season might have been an event where I picked him in this. I think, well, there was one earlier in the season when I put him forward, and I think that might have been the one miscut he's had. So maybe I'm the kiss of death. But he doesn't make many bogeys. His scoring average is, I believe, 5th on the tour this season. Not slipping up. So if he can find that extra gear of aggression, it could do well, especially wind as well. He's got a decent record in the wind, not just because he's Scottish, which is an easy sort of thing
hot
to say.
wind and cold wind, there's a big difference.
Yeah.
People need to understand that.
Yeah, I mean, but if you look at his record across when it has been windy and playing links golf and things like that, it's not just the lazy narrative. He actually is a very good wind player.
Yeah.
So the more the wind blows, the more I fancy him. And 10 to 15 doesn't feel at the moment miles per hour like it's going to be excessively windy, but I still like him with his form as well. He played well in those 2 events in Kenya. You've already drawn the conclusion to the comparison of the type of grasses there, those thicker bladed sticky grasses. So he's obviously comfortable in that. And then there's 2 others, sort of Garrick Higgo, the left-handed South African, who's just been rounding into form quite nicely. And someone who I fancy as a bit of a wild card, but it does come back to what we're saying when you get a real quality player in these fields, and it's Jamie Donaldson.
Yeah, JD. Yeah. Like Spain, Portugal, he likes a bit of sunshine, does JD, on those big carbs, that's for sure. I've got written down on my stats that he's had 3 top 10s in Portugal. He's also done well, in Valdelobo. In Spain, he's got 2 top 10s. So he likes a bit of sangria, does Jamie. So I can see that.
The heat is very much in his favour. We know he has got his injury problems, and the back does play up from time to time. And he withdrew actually in his last start in Kenya, the second event there. So there's always that question mark over Jamie. But if he's fit and plays 72 holes, his quality will come to the fore. It has done a few times in recent.
Wasn't it? Cyprus Open, he contended there, and that was a resort course, hot, bit windy. I think JD's not a bad shout. Just needs to, might drop him a text actually and ask him how he's back.
Yeah, how he's feeling. How's the back?
Yeah, how's the back? There's another one. I don't know for this week. Maybe Paul Waring. Paul Waring's going in my team next week because he loves Tenerife. But the fact that I've seen Paul's name down to play means he's ready to play. He's not enjoyed the bubble, but he really does like Gran Canaria, or the Canary Islands, should I say. So that would be somebody that if you're just looking for one that maybe other people won't pick because his stats won't hold up, this guy loves the Canary Islands. And the fact that he's committed to play shows that he wants to be there. And if Paul Waring wants to be there, then look out.
picked up some serious distance off the tee over the last 12 months as well, hasn't he? So he's deceptively long now. He's a bit amongst the biggest hitters on the European tour. He's turned himself into, which, you know, as one of the, without doing a disservice, more senior members of the tour now, shall we say, in terms of he's been on there a little while.
Another one I played junior golf with, so watch out on the age.
Yeah, that's right. How old is Paul? Is he? I feel like he's in his early 40s, but I might be wrong. I might be doing him.
Yeah, he'll be 35 or 36, so 36 maybe.
About the same age as me then.
Yeah.
But you know, he's done a really good job at adding distance in a way that doesn't look like it's messed up the rest of his game. So if we're looking at this resort course and you can bomb it out there, if he's there and ready to go and firing and in the right place mentally, and he's got that distance and he's aggressive, we know he can win on the European tour. So why not?
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to very much enjoy watching another new golf course on the European tour, and I think they've done a great job keeping. They'll be in Gran Canaria this week. They'll be on to Tenerife next week. And it's a place where we all go on holiday. So we can look at that and be thinking, maybe I can book a golf trip there. That would be nice, wouldn't it, to get abroad for a golf trip? But I hope this has helped everybody with their picks for this week. Please like the video, subscribe. We do answer your comments. Kit's probably more on it than me. So thanks for that, Kit. But yeah, good research there, mate. It was a tough one this week, wasn't it, with the lack of course history? But I think there's definite signs in our teams that hopefully this week we'll get that winner.
I think so. We're all seem to be pointing in the right sort of direction. Hopefully that is the correct direction.
Yeah, hopefully. Whichever that wind blows. Right then, Kit, speak to you soon.
Thanks very much, Sophie.